happens when you've spent your whole life believing success simply wasn't built for someone like you, and then you decide to build it anyway? Today's guest, Camille Bieber, is a photographer, videographer, and founder of Lila Co, a creative business helping wellness brands tell their story through visuals. But for years, Camille didn't even think the word success applied to them. Their old Facebook bio literally read starving artist. They arrived in the UK at 25 with 2 suitcases, 1 acquaintance, and no network. A second-generation migrant and entirely self-taught entrepreneur who has never had an office job in their life. What makes Camille's story so compelling is the honesty about how they got from there to here. Not through some overnight stroke of luck, but through being, in their own word, relentless. Showing up to talk to 2 people on their Instagram stories, putting on events that didn't sell, tweaking, pivoting, and doing it all again. And underneath it all, a quiet refusal to keep defining themselves by other people's standards. In this episode, you'll discover why authenticity became Camille's entire business strategy without them even realising it at first, what relentless actually looks like day to day, and why there's no such thing as an overnight success. The permission Camille wants to give you to stop masking, be your weird self publicly, and rest without having to earn it. And why, 6 weeks into living by the sea, success right now looks a lot like a walk on the beach. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome, Camille, to Successful AF. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yay, thank you for inviting me.
I'm actually thrilled that you're here because I remember when I first met you, I was like, we absolutely have to chat on the pod. So I'm delighted that we've made it happen.
Yes, finally. It took the time that it took, but I think the stars aligned and we're both ready now.
Exactly that. Exactly that. So tell us your story.
Okay, so when it comes to like telling someone's story, it's always difficult to find the beginning, right? Because like, is the beginning my birth? Is the beginning when I moved to the UK? Like, what is the beginning? So I guess I'll start with maybe the context in which we're having this conversation, which is my business, because I am a photographer and videographer, and the business that I run, called Lila Co, has been existing in its current form-ish for the last 7 years, I want to say. But I've always done photography since I was about 15. And I started my business started without me pushing it, let's say, because when my business actually took off was the moment when I said, that's it, I'm giving up. I'm done. It's not working. No one wants me to take that picture. That's when I set out to be a yoga teacher, and I thought to myself, I'm going to throw myself into teaching yoga, and then photography can just be a hobby. So now, obviously, I don't teach yoga anymore at all. And
Love this.
I run my creative business full time. Yeah, I like how the universe does things sometimes. And I run this business from a place of having never studied that shit, you know. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they kind of thrown into this world and they're like, oh, okay, I have to learn how to be multiple things now. Fine. And I used to have a lot of imposter syndrome around my background, being someone who is a second generation migrant. So my mom is from Madagascar and moved to France. And obviously I'm a first generation migrant because I moved to the UK nearly 11 years ago. And I've never had an office job in my entire life and never studied anything kind of related to what could be useful to run a business, you know, or never learned it in the context of a corporate job. And my niche slash specialty, I'd say, is helping wellness businesses and brands with their visuals, so photography and video. And I use my experience in brand strategy, personal brand strategy, which I gathered through experience, right? And obviously, I educated myself since then, but it was never like I went to uni and studied this, which is a very French way of doing things, by the way. In France, you go to uni, study a subject, and that's all you do for the rest of your life. Yeah, fun. And I help businesses like Mind, businesses who are maybe a bit different from like the typical, no offense, typical corporate burnout turned coach, who have like a different, a different like pathway than that kind of narrative that I see a lot in the wellness industry. I do sometimes help corporate burnout, but the bulk of my clients are people who are maybe migrants or queers, or there's a lot of intersections between like some of my identities and some of their identities. And my business name is Lila Co because Lila, yes, is the name of my dog, but it is a Sanskrit word that means divine play. And it's one of my values, my brand values, because I think play has a very important place in activism. And I think anyone who partakes in the wellness industry is an activist because, you know, y'all here healing nervous systems and like helping people basically find their spark back, find their joy back, which I think is really important work. So, yeah, that's me.
I have so many questions. Hurrah! So, firstly, how did you go from deciding to walk away from the business? You went to yoga teacher training and then your business exploded. How did that come about?
So, before I trained as a yoga teacher, I was working in retail and I was teaching French. So I did not walk away from a fully
Okay.
formed business. I was trying very hard to be a photographer without knowing where to start, without any network, because I arrived in this country with nothing, two suitcases, and one acquaintance who allowed me to stay on her mattress on her floor for a couple of weeks, who's not my best friend. If you're listening to this, hello. But I did not have a toolbox to put myself out there. If now I would move to another country and start again, or even to another city, which I did 6 weeks ago, I would know how to market myself and how to find my first clients and everything like that. But when I was 25, fuck no.
Yeah.
So I trained as a yoga teacher because I found yoga, you know, stumbled upon it, and it's a practice that really healed me or started my healing journey, let's say. And I had this really deep rooted desire of like helping people, right? And I think that is still very much part of my purpose. I think I am still a teacher at heart, and that's an element I bring a lot in my shoes for people who book like my bigger packages, like the personal branding packages, because I love changing people's lives. Big words, but I like making an impact in that way. And I my business started to work because I was making connections in the yoga industry, basically. And I think those connections were the first connections I was making in the UK that were from a really authentic, genuine place. And I was unknowingly perhaps using personal branding as a way to like connect, because I was on Instagram talking about my eating disorder recovery journey and talking about body dysmorphia and fat phobia, and those are still like values that I talk about, you know, body positivity and things like that. So I think I started connecting with people through that, and yeah, started booking photo shoots for yoga teachers for a good couple of years, I'd say. Like I only had yoga teachers as clients as a yoga photographer.
Well, yoga teachers need photographers, but I think, I love what you said there. And your podcast is called The Winding Way, right? And I think when you're open to different directions, so you'd obviously sort of gone, okay, right, I'm going to go and teach yoga. And then something came from that was very different. And it comes back to your being super authentic and who you are and like showing up as you. But the universe is like, oh, hang on a minute, like there's a different way around this, like, you've got the photography and actually like here's the yoga, and bringing all those things together. And I think there's a real power in being open-minded enough to see the opportunity there, but also to be willing to go back to something that you thought was not going to be for you because you didn't think it was going to take off. You didn't think there were going to be any clients. And I think that's where the entrepreneurial mindset for me, I think, is so fantastic, with people who are willing to keep going and try different things. And I don't know what kind of photographer you were before. Like, was it portraits? Was it land? I have no idea. But, you changed and you pivoted and you have built an amazing business.
Thanks, Henry. I mean, before yoga, I was very into architecture, actually. When I look at my work, especially the work that I was doing in France, I had a mixture of like experimental stuff. I was doing a lot of film photography. And then I was very attracted to like brutalism and like really harsh architecture, really harsh shadows and stuff. And like, it's interesting for me to see the shift between like the unhealed version of me and then the healing version of me. Because like my work now is extremely soft. There's a lot of like nature elements in there. It's very whimsy, like compared to like my work 10 years ago. It's very interesting to see that. And like the word entrepreneur, I remember back in France, that word came about in the early 2010s, and like my consciousness and everyone around me. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And I would have never identified as that because of my background, right? Like, because in France I was like hospitality and hustling with my jobs, and I would never have pictured myself as someone running a business like that. That would have been so weird to me. But I think like I definitely have an entrepreneurial mindset. And like someone asked me a question yesterday, someone that we both know, which is Charlotte Reynolds, through whom we met. And it was a reply to my story. And it was like, how do you do this? How do you manage to do this? Because I was just like doing gym stuff. And I was like, Charlotte, I'm relentless. And like, and that's actually who I am in all aspects of my life. I am relentless. I just don't give up, even though I gave up. The universe was like, no.
But you didn't, right? And I think that's you pivoted. You didn't give up. And it's easy to give up. It's so much easier to give up, and let's talk about your fitness journey for a little minute, because you do show up is it every day you're in the gym?
More or less. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some rest days.
But you do show up. And I think there's that, I can't remember if you and I talked about this. I think maybe we did. The overnight success that's built over tens of years, right? And I think it's so easy to look from the outside and be like, oh, they're just lucky. They're lucky. Like, they've got a great rig. Oh my God, look at his bum, whatever. Oh my God, so many muscles. And I think it's so easy to be like, oh, well, that's just how they're built. That's just how they've obviously come from money. What, like, there's all these narratives that we create around people who have what we want. You are such a symbol for that, just consistently putting the work in and doing it and showing up. And it does yield results, but it definitely hasn't been an overnight thing, right?
No. No, and I think like I had my birth chart read like a couple of years ago, and like I think it was literally like written on my chart of like, you're not an overnight success. Like, you're just like
But no
hard
one
work.
is, right?
No one is. I think for some people they may get there quicker. For
Fine.
some, it may require more work and more years. And like I definitely felt like, okay, it's been a while now. Like when am I there? And it's like, oh, what is there, right? Because like if I sit down and think about my life right now, I'm like, I'm not where I want to be financially, especially. But like if I look deeper, I'm like, I literally live by the beach. I chose, like, I make my own life. I created a lot of opportunities for me, and it's, yeah, it was not overnight work, but as you said, every day just showing up and talking to your stories when you feel cringy and you have two people watching, and then putting events together that don't sell, and then just keep doing it anyway and keep selling and keep pivoting, keep creating new offers. It's endless. And I think like even the most successful people probably don't feel like they're there. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I think you have to create pockets of gratitude and pockets of rest. Otherwise, you'll always, especially if you have that relentless mindset that, you always think like, oh, I have to go, go, go. It's like, okay, chill.
Yeah. And you're so right. This is such a great segue to like, what does success mean to you?
What does it mean? I think it means choice and freedom and just not being limited by your circumstances for choices, whether that means finances or living situation or whatever. And I think for a lot of people, choice does mean money, right? I don't think we can bypass, but it's not all of what it is, because I remember having like really slow periods of my life, like slow with work. And whilst I was like slightly stressed about making rent and whatever, I was like, I think you should really like lean into that season, because when you're gonna get busy, like there's no way you can live that life and just do all of your self-care activities and all of your routine and stuff like that, because I do fucking love a routine. So yeah, a mix.
I really like the choice and freedom thing. You talk a lot, and you mentioned it earlier, about the importance of curating your life and creating the life that you've chosen to live. My least favorite phrase of all time is fuck my life. I hate that phrase because I'm like, no, like just don't fuck it, just change it. Change your life, sure. And like that doesn't mean that, you're going to change it and things are going to go well and it's going to just be plain sailing or whatever. But what I love about you is like you learn from everything. So you just said like, oh, you've just moved to a new city, but when you were 25, you moved to the UK, you didn't have your toolkit. Now you have your toolkit and you're implementing that in your new space. And you talk about, you put on these events, they didn't sell out, so you tweak them. And it's the tweaking and the small changes and the learning from everything that you do that makes you brilliant at what you do. And also, it's not just about what you do, but who you are.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Thank you. I wasn't expecting to receive so many compliments today. Yes, the thing that you just spoke about change your life, that's definitely something that has come up in my life at a few occasions where I would have conversations with people who felt trapped in their life, and like completely recognize myself in that, because at many, many, many points in my life I felt trapped and like I didn't have any power and agency over my life and over what it could look like. And I think it's very easy to feel trapped, whether you're in the wrong job, the wrong relationship, sometimes because it's so like you're so enmeshed with these things that don't work for you, you're like this is it, like there's nothing I can do, and you don't see like how you can change. But when you start to make a small step, you're like, oh no, actually I have so much more power than I think I do. But it's about making that first step.
I love that. And also, I think, yeah, the importance of recognizing that enmeshment. If you were giving advice to someone who is in that space where they feel like they have no power, there's literally, I can't do anything. And I'm talking here about adults because I think it's very different to be a child, because you can be very trapped as a child. And I don't think any children listen to this podcast, and I hope they don't, because I swear too much. But, you know, like as an adult, feeling trapped in that situation, what would be your advice, like for a first step that someone might be able to do?
Honestly, like, wow, it's gonna sound so wellness cliche of me, but it's do movement activity, because that was the first step for me. I felt trapped in many aspects of my life. It started with my body, right? It started like feeling trapped and like not feeling at home in my own body. So this is where yoga actually came into my life. And that was like the first time that I was like, oh, I can actually decide like how to move this body, and like how, and like do fun things with it, and it doesn't just have to be like this functional thing that takes me to work, or that I just don't like the look of. It's just like it can go beyond what it looks like. I love like unbalances and inversions and stuff, and like, and for me, like that was life changing to be able to like explore something like that, because again it challenged what I thought about myself. I had this whole narrative about who I was, and then suddenly I was changing that. So it's like, oh, what else can I change? Right. And it's like taking small actions every year to like create and design the life that I want.
I love that so much. Yeah, and I also love, the arm balance thing. I think we shouldn't brush over that, right? You literally learned to turn upside down, and then you see the world differently, right?
Yeah. A change of perspective.
Quite literally, yeah. And you are so badass at handstands. We don't have time to go into that, but like it's everyone should. I will tag your Instagram so everyone can see you doing your handstands. Very, very impressive. I think we might have covered this, but has your definition of success changed throughout your life?
Do you know, I don't think I was thinking about success all that much up until I started my business, because I never thought I could be successful, like or it could be something that I could reach. Like I wanted and always thought that I was meant for a big life, but never thought that I could get there. And I remember defining myself even on Facebook, when you could like write your jobs and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And like I had this Facebook page for my photography work, and like my job was starving artist at my photography page, and it's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like I never thought that I could be something beyond that. I always thought that I was always gonna struggle as an artist unless I would choose a life that is quote unquote normal, the marriage and the kids and the normal job and all of that. And even then, I wasn't thinking about success, thinking about those things. I was just like, yeah, I'm just always gonna live with like 10 people and try to sell my photography somehow.
Yeah. You've just reminded me of, have you ever read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the starving artist thing. I think it comes back to like how you see yourself, right? And I think it's really easy to, and I'm not saying this is what you've done, but like I think I've definitely done it for myself. Like I've fallen into a trap where I have defined myself by other people's standards and by other people's perspectives. And you're not the first person I've had on here who said, I didn't think success was for me.
Interesting.
And I think that's something that I really want to change, like, because I think everyone can be successful, but it's about like it's creating your own definition of success, right? And I think we're not always where we want to be, but I think we are often told that success looks like this in a box, and you've just said it there, like the normal job, whatever that means, the marriage, the kids, the house with the white picket fence, or whatever. And actually, that's such an outmoded version of success that doesn't really belong to any of us anymore, perhaps. And I just think it's so important that we embrace the journey of, success for me means like living on a beach, or success for me probably means like, I don't know, like doing a yoga class at 10 o'clock on a Friday morning. Like, it's those things that are so small but actually can make a big difference.
I have so many things in my mind. I'll see if I can keep all of the tabs in my brain open. But on the like going to a class at 10 a.m. tip, I remember actually having like a kind of a moment I think it was like a few years ago, where I just took my laptop and went to work at a cafe and just like stayed there for the whole day. And I remember like when I was teaching French and living with someone who was a freelance film director, and he would work at cafes sometimes, and I would envy him so much because like my life was dictated by my students, and I would travel across London, like being constant state of burnout. And then like when I sat and worked at that cafe a few years back, I was like, oh, I can do that actually. That's really cool. And that felt, oh, I've got some success in my life. And then the other thing that I wanted to bounce back on is I think maybe those people who like me said, oh, I didn't think success was for me. I guess it depends on like how you grew up and what you are reflected back, right? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't have a family that understand them. Some of them do. Some of them come from a long line of entrepreneurs, and like that's a different kind of pressure. But
Yeah.
when like my family, we have obviously like my mom moved from Madagascar to France to become a nurse. That's what she studied, and then all of them, my family, do like this kind of jobs. My uncle was like making windows, like they don't understand that entrepreneurial mindset. They don't understand like that want to explore something else and to create a life for you. And I think it's also our generation, specifically like millennials. Like we've seen, the crisis of when was it, 2008, and we've seen like promises made, and then actually no, you're not gonna you're not gonna go on
Yeah.
the property ladder, and you're not gonna so it's like we as a generation had to think about how can we find happiness because we can't get the things that we were promised. And I think those things really, like between our own personal family and generational millennial things, had us try and redefine success. First, think, oh, success is not for me, and then pivot and be like, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. But I'm pleased that we're, talking about it, and we're creating our own version of success, right?
Yes. Yes, we are.
What challenges have you had to overcome?
So many.
Yeah.
Finding my first client was really difficult. And having to trust my own decision making was difficult for a while. And it's becoming less difficult. But for the last few years especially, I feel like I was numbing myself to stay in a situation that wasn't necessarily for me. And I felt like I was quite disconnected from my intuition. And now that I've changed my situation, everything is coming back, and like I'm learning to make decisions out of love and not out of scarcity, because scarcity is actually something that is like really deeply rooted in me. And I think we even had a conversation about that when we met back in September. And so like yeah, learning to detangle all of that. What else? I had to learn to be an accountant and a content creator and a marketer.
Yeah.
Brand strategist on top of like the creative aspect of my business. I think also running a business can really show you where you need healing.
Mm.
Really like unearth some really nasty things. So that's also been challenging, but I guess that's a good challenge because you know the more you learn about yourself and the more you can deal with it, right?
Yeah, but you have to be brave enough to face into it. And I think that comes back to that relentlessness, right? And the willingness to continue to show up and do the hard things, whether that's getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym or it's constantly like turning over the rocks and going, okay, there's more healing to be done here.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because like I have conversations with like I would say two business besties. So it's like the people that you talk to about your business quite a lot. And like there's one of them in Belgium. Hi Brianna, if you're listening to this. And like quite often like we would voice our respective challenges to each other. And then we would be like, I think we both feel the same, as in like we don't have a choice in terms of like continuing on. I could be complaining all day long about things that are wrong in my business, but like the choice is not between like, oh, do I just give up or like continue? It's like like in my mind, it's like, of course I'm going to continue. Like this, you know, I feel this like strong rooted, I don't know, pressure. It's not pressure, like a pull of
Yeah.
like going. It's yeah. I just don't see any other way, and I guess that's probably the relentlessness. It's like it's because it's what I'm meant to do. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that like it's so clearly your purpose that it's almost like I think when you have really deeply connected with your purpose, and I think a lot of that comes from doing the work and knowing who you are and showing up, but it's almost like it won't let you go. It's like, you know, there's no like, you can't just quit this one. Like, we're going to be here, we'll be waiting for you because this is what you are meant to be doing. And you can like go over there and be cross with us, but we're still your purpose. So we're still staying here. And I think that's quite beautiful, but also can be a pain in the ass if you're like, today I don't want that. I don't want that to be my purpose today. Okay. Like, just let me not have it today.
Just give me a normal job.
Yeah.
I'm like banging out every month.
I want sick pay and I want holiday pay and I want just leave me alone. Yeah. This isn't actually a question that I've ever asked before, but I'm going to ask it because of a conversation we had in September. How do you celebrate your success?
Okay, so I still have problems with that.
Okay.
Because of like my go-go mentality, I guess. It's like, okay, when do I reach the next thing? When do I reach the next thing? But you know what I've been doing
Tell me.
is that I voice it to someone.
I
You
love
know,
that.
when I have a person now that I can tell those things, and I just text them, hey, I just signed this new client. I just did this, I just did that, you know, send video of like some cool shit I did at the gym. And it sounds really small, right? But I
No,
was not doing that before.
it doesn't sound small. It doesn't sound
Yeah.
small at all. I think it's really important because otherwise, to your point, you can get lost in the doing. What's it all for if we're not having a nice time, we're not celebrating the wins?
Yeah, honestly. And I think like that's all part of the same thing almost like because I do believe that when you run your business, whatever happens in your personal life is gonna deeply impact your business in a lot of ways and vice versa. And I was an avoidant. So realization that I've come across very recently this year. I was like, oh, I just avoid my emotions. I avoid everything. I don't allow myself to be vulnerable. I don't allow, yeah, any kind of openness. I'm super happy to receive vulnerability from other people, but me, nah. And in healing that, or working on it, I do notice that it is bringing changes to my business and the way I approach my business. And I think like celebrating the wins by sharing them with someone is actually part of that, because it's like, oh, I'm opening up about something nice that happens to me. And like, because there's always a part of me that is like, nobody gives a shit. So, but actually, no, if it's like well received, then yeah, of course, people
Yeah,
give a shit.
I love it. Good for you. I'm very happy to hear that you're celebrating your success. Thrilled, in
Oh.
fact. What advice would you give your younger self?
Go to therapy sooner. And breathe. Stop holding on and clutching. What else? And honestly, maybe I wouldn't give myself too many pieces of advice, because it may impact the way I would have moved through life. And even though it was fucking hard, I'm really happy with where I am now. And I wouldn't want to risk changing, arriving here now. Yeah.
I love that. I think we just need to stay with that for a minute. That's huge. Very beautiful. And then, what permission do you want to give other people through your story?
Okay, so I want you to lean into the parts of you that you think you should hide in order to be a successful business owner. I want you to be your weird self publicly and stop masking. I want you to rest, because you can't just work 7 days a week and for 12 hours a day. I think a lot of people that I know personally do that, never give themselves some time off. And like, I've always been pretty good at that, I would say. And you don't have to deserve the time off, right? You don't have to like work super hard in order to deserve the time off. Just give yourself a couple of days a week. You'll be fine. Your business is not going to fall apart.
I love that. I think, yeah, the rest one I think is so important. Like you said it earlier around, you have rest days when you go to the gym. And I think, I don't know the science behind this, so I might be about to spout a load of bullshit, but I'm pretty sure that it's the rest days that allows your muscles to grow and recover. And like, that's how you get strong, by taking rest days. And actually, when you go every single day, you don't get the gains. And that's the same in business, right? Because you just don't have the bandwidth. And people can tell when you're tired, right? You said earlier how you're feeling in your personal life really impacts your business. But as a business owner, people can tell when you're off, when you're tired, when you don't want to be there. Like, they just know. So, yeah.
That is very true. People can tell. And like, especially if you are a service provider, your clients can tell. And it's never nice to be held by someone who's tired. So I think if you're not going to rest for yourself, you should rest for your clients.
I love it. Are you ready for quickfire?
Okay. No, let's do it.
Best way to be. Being not ready is 100% the best way to be. One word to describe your current relationship with success.
Wow, that's not quick fire at all. I'm sorry. Ongoing.
Your non-negotiable boundary that protects you from burnout.
I work very strict hours. I never overwork, and I never take meetings on Friday or in the afternoon in general. Yeah.
Well, thank you for making an exception for me today.
That's not a meeting though, is it?
Yeah, fair, fair. Um, what does rest look like for you?
Oh, okay. So many types of rest that embrace them all. So I live in Hove. I walk by the beach constantly. That's a form of rest. I I go to bed for sure at a reasonable hour because I wake up very early, so I do value my sleep. I date myself, but also my partner, and we do like nice things together, which is a form of rest. I read. I like to eat things that I cook lovingly for myself. Yeah.
Really beautiful. One thing you wish more people knew about building a sustainable career or business in your case.
I think two things that I've already mentioned is that you can't do it without rest, and you can't do it, in my opinion, without addressing your own shadow as a person.
Yeah, 100%. What is the success metric that matters to you most right now?
So I just emptied my emergency fund because I moved cities. So my measure of success would be to have it back.
Amazing. Great.
Yeah.
And finally, what makes you feel most successful as fuck?
You're gonna be like, shut the fuck up about the beach.
No, I actually was going to be like, I bet it's the beach.
Just like I mean it's been 6 weeks since I moved, so I'm still not over it. Of like going to the seaside, looking at the beach and be like, live here. Insane. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me, for taking the time. What a lovely chat.
What a lovely chat. I love your questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks ever so much. So we're back because I forgot to ask a really important question. Where do we find you? So you're on Instagram, you've got your business, you've also got a podcast. Tell us like how we can connect with you, find you, work with you, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. So I am on Instagram at lila.co. My podcast is called The Winding Way. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and the Instagram for it is at The Winding Way. It's dormant at the moment because I got fingers in a lot of pots, but I will get onto it. The last episode is maybe a month old.
But there's things on there people can listen to, so they can go back and listen.
Yeah, that are very relevant, and I guess it's a good way to get to know me as well if people want to work with me. My website is lilaand.co. I'm on LinkedIn, which is going to be my full government name, Camille Bieber. And I'm everywhere, guys. I'm literally
She's
like
everywhere. She's everywhere.
Like I'm on Threads, I'm on TikTok.
Great. There you go. And you have one space left in July. Is that right? I might have made that up. I saw recently you have
I do.
one
Yeah,
space.
I do.
Yeah.
It might be able to be taken.
It's probably
but
gone
you
by the
never
time
know.
this podcast comes out. But people can reach out to you, right?
Yeah, I've got August. I've got September.
There you
can
go.
book
Well,
in
good.
advance.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening, and a huge thank you to Camille for being so open and generous with their story today. The thing that's really stayed with me is the idea that you don't have to deserve rest, that your business won't fall apart if you give yourself a couple of days off, and that resting isn't just for you, it's for the people you serve. As Camille says, no one wants to be held by someone who's exhausted. I loved the reminder that feeling trapped is so often a story we tell ourselves, and that the way out is very rarely some grand gesture. It's one small step. And for Camille, that first step was simply learning to move their body differently. Turn yourself upside down and suddenly you see the whole world from a different angle. And their one word for their relationship with success: ongoing. Honestly, same, Camille, same. You can find Camille on Instagram, Co, and their podcast, The Winding Way, is well worth a listen on Spotify and Apple. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Get in touch at successfulafpod@gmail.com and please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep showing up and remember, you get to create your own definition of success.